Good morning. Thank you very much for having me this morning. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. We'll see if this works. Did it work?
Yeah. I don't see it yet.
Okay. Not yet. Oh, here we go. There. I think that's working. Okay, so let's talk about the amendments process. This is the process by which your rules, your bylaws get amended. I've been part of this program since, I believe, 2009, so I have a little bit of experience in it. And the process was streamlined in 2017. So I can tell some of you on this in this meeting have already been through this process with me. It's possible you were in the process when it was a little bit longer and more complicated than it is today. We didn't want to go down. Okay. There it is. Okay, so there is a single thing that governs this process aside from your own bylaws. Your own bylaws will discuss how your bylaws are amended, but from the bar's perspective, the only thing that governs this process is a standing board policy of the Florida Bar's Board of Governors, Standing Board Policy 5.52. That's what was created in 2017 to govern this process. So there are 3 levels of review once an amendment gets to the level of the board. The board, by the way, the Florida Bar Board of Governors has to approve any changes to your bylaws ultimately. You yourselves can suggest changes, but they do not become final until the Board of Governors approves. Each of your bylaws should say that. But even if they don't, this standing board policy does say it. So there are 3 reviews that happen at the Board of Governors before the Board of Governors can take final action on your bylaws. 2 of the types of review happen at the same committee, which is the Program Evaluation Committee for you. And the other, those are substantive and strategic review. The other is fiscal review. That happens through the BAR's Budget Committee. So the substantive review, again, by the Program Evaluation Committee of the Board of Governors, it's a group of people made up of solely Florida Bar Board of Governors members. The content is reviewed for substance. So the determination that the Board of Governors has to make is the request you're changing good policy? If it's good policy, it's going to get approved. The strategic review is also performed by the Program Evaluation Committee, and that is, does the change adhere to the BAR strategic plan? So the BAR has a strategic plan. It is updated every year during our long-range planning in the spring, and it's posted on the website. So the Program Evaluation Committee is responsible for reviewing every amendment, whether it's section bylaws, whether it's rules regulating the Florida Bar, standing board policies, bar policies and procedures, anything that has to go through this review. The Program Evaluation Committee compares the change to the strategic plan and makes sure it fits within the strategic plan. And the strategic review sometimes happens before the substantive review. It tends to be a quicker review because it's pretty easy to tell whether something is within the strategic plan. It isn't always as clear whether or not it's something that's good policy. Sometimes with section bylaws, the Program Evaluation Committee will refer the substantive question to a subcommittee, and the subcommittee will meet with the leadership of the section to determine why the change is being made and whether or not the Program Evaluation Committee thinks it's good policy. Finally, the fiscal review is done by the Chief Financial Officer of the Florida Bar and by the Bar's Budget Committee. So this can happen anytime after substantive review. It could happen before strategic review. It could happen after strategic review, but the fiscal review doesn't happen usually until the substantive review has occurred, because there's no point in looking at the fiscal impact unless it's good policy. So, it does have to occur before final board action. All these levels of review have to happen before final board action. So the fiscal impact has to do with the fiscal impact to the bar. There is sometimes a fiscal impact to the section, but the thing the bar cares about is is it going to either cost the bar money or bring in revenue to the Florida bar? So your section coordinator is responsible for getting with you when you want to amend your bylaws to determine if there's going to be a fiscal impact to the Florida bar. That coordinator fills out a fiscal impact statement, and the chief financial officer's job is to determine whether or not the fiscal impact is accurately described in the fiscal impact statement. And the statement has to be filled out regardless of whether there's any fiscal impact or not. If there's no fiscal impact, there's a place on the form where the person can say there's not going to be a fiscal impact, but the form still has to be filled out so the chief financial officer can review it and see if it's been accurately described. So if there is de minimis impact or no impact to the bar, the chief financial officer reviews it and then puts it on a consent calendar for the budget committee. So there's no big discussion by the budget committee. If there's more than a de minimis impact, the full budget committee has to sit and review it and determine whether or not that fiscal impact is accurately determined on the form. So there is a form. We have a database where we keep track of all amendments to anything, which includes your section bylaws. The form is in that database. De minimis impact, by the way, is anything less than $5,000. If it's $5,000 or less, it's de minimis. So the full board budget committee doesn't have to review it. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't think about, maybe your section doesn't think about it. I know my committees often don't think about it, but there can be a fiscal impact in terms of IT time. A lot of times for example, somebody wants to say on the web, and this is already available on the web, but I'm using it as an example. People want to be able to list their sections that they're members of on the web. There is a fiscal impact, and it's more than de minimis anytime there's a change to our website, because we have a certain amount of IT time that gets invested in determining how that gets posted on the web, how to make it integrate with our current system. So those are things that sometimes people don't think about that do have a fiscal impact. It has to be signed by either the staff liaison or a section member representative. It goes to your division director, Terry Hill, and then it goes to our chief financial officer, who's Marcy Jackson, who I think is speaking to you today also. So amendments can go to the Board of Governors anytime after all of those things have happened. Sometimes they all happen at the same meeting. Sometimes the Program Evaluation Committee will sign off on it at the exact same meeting that the fiscal review occurs at the exact same meeting. The board can take final action. It doesn't always work out that way, but we have had it work out that way. We used to have a separate first reading at the board, and that was abandoned in 2017 when the standing board policy was created. So there's some formatting requirements. That is something that both your section coordinator and Kelly Smith, who also works in the rules program, and I help with. So the Program Evaluation Committee requires that your bylaws be presented in a Word document that is in legislative format. The legislative format means that anything being deleted from the section bylaws are shown, but shown as stricken out, and any additions are underlined. They also require that you use the comment bubble feature in Word to show what the reason for the substantive changes. So you would highlight any substantive change and click on the comment bubble button, and then you can type into the comment bubble a brief reason for why it's being changed. The section is required to prepare some kind of justification for every substantive change to the bylaws. Why is that change being made? So this is what that would look like. So you can see, I don't remember it's the health law section. So you can see the legislative format where things are stricken out. You can see where there's underlining, and you can see the comment bubbles that briefly describe why the request is being made to change anything in your bylaws. So here are some helpful things that you can do to assist yourselves and us, the rules program staff, and also the board in this process. It's a good idea to record in your minutes when the substantive changes are being made, and you may want to consider having a separate memo or some information in your minutes, one of the two, as to why the change is being made. So if the language is unclear to us, and we want to suggest to you a way to make the language clear, that will help us understand what change is being made and why, so that we can better assist you. Also, if there's no justification in the Word document that you present, then that would allow us to add comment bubbles for you that show the board why the change is being made. So there are two staff that work on this besides your own program coordinators. Kelly Smith is a senior attorney in our rules program. Her extension is, oh, I'm sorry, that's her wrong extension. Okay, write down her right extension. It's 5751. She's at ksmith@floridabar.org. My extension's also wrong, sorry. You can reach me through Kelly at 5751. We are happy to answer any questions you have about the process and assist you through the process. One thing that you might want to be aware of is the program evaluation often likes to have a representative of the section at its meeting when it's deciding whether or not to approve substantive changes to the bylaws. They like that because if they have specific questions, there is someone who is knowledgeable who's there to answer. I mean, your section is going to know that, your section representative is going to know it. I'm not necessarily the best person, and I can't always be present at the meeting. So I'm not the best person to present your case to the board. You are not required to attend the full board meeting, but often if they're for the program evaluation committee itself, or if it's assigned to a subcommittee of the program evaluation committee, it's super helpful to have a section representative present. And that is all. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't see any questions.
I just want to chime in and thank her for the discussion and the explanation that I was there on the floor in 2017 when the reforms were being made, and the council sections and the Florida Bar worked collaboratively to achieve those reforms, and they've been implemented wonderfully. So thank you for all of your efforts and help in explaining all of that to us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Honestly, I think it's gone smoothly, and I think it has been quicker for the sections. Your bylaws are getting amended more quickly.
Zasha, this is Terry Hill. I'm going to ask Elizabeth a question, and it's a question that I know the answer to, but I think all of you would appreciate. And that is how soon, Elizabeth, how soon in the process when a section starts talking about amending their bylaws, should the program administrator put the section in contact with you or Kelly?
Oh, that is an excellent question. Thank you for asking. Immediately, if not sooner. The sooner we know about it, the more we can prepare for it, and also let your section coordinator know about impending deadlines. So, for example, for the board meets about every 2 months. They meet 6 times a year. And there is a deadline about a month ahead of the board meeting for when the materials for the board have to go to the board. They have to go to the executive director's office so that they can pull all the materials together. And that way, all that information is given to the board timely. So in order for us to meet those deadlines, it's good for us to know when something is coming down the pike. Additionally, I mean, Kelly and I, our job is to try to assist you in any way we can. So we actually review, as soon as we have your proposed changes, we review them to make sure, that they're grammatically correct, that they're numbered consistent with the general numbering system the rules program uses for bylaws. You might be astonished at the number of times a section representative, of course, they're not used to doing this. This might happen for your section once every couple of years. So you might try to use the automatic numbering system in Word, and that is not the system we use. So we will look for those kinds of things. We will also even sometimes make a substantive suggestion. So for example, several years ago, we started to see sections adding electronic voting, electronic meetings into their bylaws. So when we would have a section come through and they hadn't added those things to their bylaws, we would reach out to a section representative and say, hey, this is something that seems to be happening with a lot of the sections. Do you want to consider that for your section as well? They're only suggestions. You're not required to take our suggestions, although I will tell you, I will stick a period in for you if I see one is missing, and I won't even ask you.
Mhm.